Welcome, everyone. We are so glad you're here. Today, we're diving into one of the most misunderstood moments in the entire Torah. It's a scene you think you know, right? Two brothers, Jacob and Esau, finally meeting again after 20 years of anger and separation. But what we're going to see is that beneath this intense family drama, something truly cosmic is going on. We are about to watch an act of what looks like complete submission transform into an exercise of the ultimate sacred power. So let's really sink into the words here. And he himself passed on before them. I mean, think about that. Jacob deliberately puts himself out front, ahead of his family, his legacy, his entire future. He's literally shielding them with his own body. And then it says he bowed to the ground 7 times. You know, this isn't a simple nod. This isn't a quick, polite hello. This is full prostration, body to the earth. Not once, but 7 separate, deliberate times. It's this rhythmic, seemingly desperate act as he gets closer and closer to the brother who once promised to kill him.
You can just feel the tension, can't you? Picture it, the golden desert light. 20 years of running are over. Jacob is almost home, but standing right there in his path is Esau. And Esau is not alone. He's brought 400 men with him. I mean, that's basically a small army. Now, Jacob, he's a master strategist, right? He's already sent all these gifts ahead. He split his camp in 2 just in case. But in this moment, all that strategy just melts away. He walks alone, exposed, vulnerable, taking these rhythmic steps toward what could easily be a lethal force.
And we just have to remember who this man is. This is Jacob, the man who wrestled with a divine being all night and won. The one who was renamed Israel, one who strives with God. This is the sole carrier of the blessing from Abraham and Isaac, the one person holding a promise that's going to shape all of history. He's the father of the 12 tribes, the living blueprint for a nation. So this isn't just some guy in a tough spot. He's a cosmic pillar, a bridge between heaven and earth. And this is where we hit the paradox, the big question. You have this spiritual giant, this carrier of destiny, and he's doing something that looks like total humiliation. He's bowing to the ground before a man who represents untempered worldly power, raw judgment. On the surface, it looks like a compromise. It looks like fear. It looks like he's just cowering to appease a dangerous threat. It almost seems like he's betraying his own spiritual greatness.
But what if what our eyes are seeing isn't what's really happening? What if the outside action is a kind of camouflage for its true inner intention? What if these 7 bows are not an act of submission or to a man at all, but an act of profound, powerful alignment with God? This is the question that unlocks the whole thing. The simple story, the pshat, is just the front door. To really understand what's going on, we have to go way, way deeper.
So here's our roadmap for today's journey. We're going to start with this apparent act of humiliation. Then we'll pull back the curtain on the unseen divine shield that was really there. After that, we'll get into the cosmic identities of everyone involved and detail the incredible 7-fold alignment Jacob was performing. And finally, we'll translate this ancient code into our modern world and see what it teaches us about power and prostration. All right, to really get this, we have to turn to the foundational text of Jewish mysticism, the Zohar. See, the Zohar doesn't read this scene as just a family drama. It sees it as a detailed instruction manual for a powerful spiritual technology. It reveals that there was another player on the field, an invisible presence that completely changes the meaning of every single move Jacob makes. Now, before we go any further, there's a key term we absolutely need to get our heads around, the Shekhinah. In the language of Kabbalah, the Shekhinah is the tangible, immanent presence of God within the world. This isn't some distant God up in heaven. This is the aspect of the divine that dwells with us, that we can actually connect with. It's often identified with the divine attribute, or Sephirot, of Malchut, which means kingdom. Why kingdom? Because it's the final attribute that acts as the interface with our physical world. It's the ultimate channel for all higher spiritual energy to flow into our reality. And this is the Zohar's mind-blowing revelation. Jacob was not walking alone. As he walked toward Esau, the Shekhinah, this divine presence, was moving in front of him, like a luminous, invisible shield. And that changes everything. It means Jacob's 7 bows weren't aimed at Esau at all. They were 7 acts of devotion, 7 moments of deep alignment, 7 gestures of connection directed only to the divine presence standing between him and the threat. He was bowing to God.
Now you're probably thinking, okay, how does that even work? How can these people be part of some cosmic drama? Well, to get that, we need to understand the Kabbalistic idea of the Partsufim, or divine personas. The idea here is that the figures in the Torah aren't just historical people, they're root archetypes. They are the physical embodiment of fundamental divine energies, the Sephirot that make up all of reality. So this is the tree of life. It's the fundamental map of divine consciousness. You could even say it's the architecture of reality itself. It's made up of 10 Sephirot, or emanations. You can see they're organized in 3 columns. The right side is all about expansive, giving energy. The left side is restrictive, discerning energy. And that middle column? That's the synthesis, the perfect balance between the two. This isn't just some mystical drawing. It's seen as the blueprint for everything, from the entire cosmos all the way down to the human soul.
Now, these 10 Sephirot kind of group together to form a divine persona, or partsuf. You can think of it like a human body. The top 3, Keter, Chokmah, Bina, they're called the Mokshin, the intellects. That's the head, right? The pure, unmanifested consciousness. And then you've got the lower 7, from Chesed all the way down to Malchut. These are the midots, the emotional attributes. This is the body. These are the energies that actually get expressed in the world. Things like love, discipline, beauty, endurance. And Jacob's 7 bows, they are a direct, conscious interaction with these 7 lower attributes.
So with that map, the cosmic roles just snap into focus. Jacob embodies Sephirot, which means beauty or harmony. It's right there in the center of the tree, perfectly balancing everything else. He is the principle of truth. Now Esau, who the Torah calls Admoni, or reddish, he embodies the external force of Gevurah, pure, unmitigated judgment, raw power with no kindness to temper it. His color is red. Jacob's, representing harmony, is green. And the Shekhinah, that divine shield in front of him, is Malchut, the kingdom, whose essence is often seen as this radiant, luminous white and gold. Okay, so now that we see the players, Jacob's actions look totally different. Those 7 bows were not an act of fear. They were a precise, methodical, and incredibly powerful use of spiritual technology. He was performing a 7-step calibration, a meditative alignment of his entire being with the divine flow. And he was using the Shekhinah right there in front of him as the focal point for this sacred work. Let's actually walk through this, bow by bow. Each one connects Jacob to one of the 7 lower Sephirot. First, he bows and aligns with Chesed. He's pulling in the energy of infinite divine kindness. That's his first move against a force of pure severity. Second, he bows to holy Gevurah. See, he's not submitting to Esau's power. He's connecting with divine strength, with holy discernment. He's mastering the very energy Esau is misusing. Third, he bows to Sephirot, his own core. He's grounding himself in beauty, harmony, and truth. Fourth, a bow to Netzach, tapping into divine endurance and victory. He's affirming that his path will win out. Fifth, he bows to Had, which is splendor and humility, acknowledging the divine majesty before him. Sixth, a bow to Yasad, the foundation, the channel that funnels all these higher energies down. And the 7th, final bow is to Malchut itself, a direct prostration to the Shekhinah. The circuit is now complete. He has systematically drawn the perfectly balanced divine energy of the entire tree of life into himself. He is now a walking, talking embodiment of these attributes.
This visual really shows the dynamic perfectly. You've got the red force of Esau's raw judgment. But Jacob, the green force of harmony, he doesn't meet it head on. That would just be a clash of power. No, instead, he aligns himself completely with the bigger, all-encompassing power of the divine presence, that white and gold energy. By doing this, he doesn't defeat Esau's energy. He surrounds it, harmonizes it, and neutralizes it. The threat just dissolves, not because it was fought, but because it was met by a higher, deeper, and more complete reality.
So, this ancient story clearly has a timeless code for navigating life's biggest challenges. But I get it, these mystical concepts, Sephirot, Partsufim, Shekhinah, they can feel a little abstract. So to make them really practical, let's try to translate this incredible spiritual technology into a couple of modern analogies. For all of you who are more technically minded, think of it as cosmic systems engineering. Jacob has to interact with a potentially hostile and unpredictable external node, Esau. A direct, unencrypted connection? Way too risky. So what does he do? He performs an act of authenticated routing. To any outside observer, it looks like he's pinging Esau directly with each bow.
But in reality, every one of his 7 packets of action is being routed first through a secure, governing system layer, the Shekhinah. This makes sure the entire interaction is governed by the protocols of the core authority, the divine will. And that process completely neutralizes any hostile intent from the external node, because the connection itself is sacred and secure.
And okay, for the gamers out there, or really for anyone, there's an even better analogy. Jacob is the player, and he's finally at the boss level, Esau and his 400 minions. A head-on button-mashing attack would be total suicide, but the game's designers built in a secret cheat code. The player has to perform a specific sequence of 7 actions, the 7 bows, that look to the boss like he's surrendering. But each bow isn't a surrender, it's a power-up. Each one aligns the player with an invisible, invincible force field, the Shekhinah. After the 7th power-up, the player is fully charged, literally glowing with this divine energy. And when he finally reaches the boss's aggression is just nullified. His attack patterns are overwritten. The fight ends with an embrace, because the player fundamentally changed the physics of the entire encounter.
All right, so we've looked at the story, we've gone deep into the Zohar, we've mapped the cosmic players, and we've even translated the ancient code. Now, let's pull all these layers together into one really profound, actionable takeaway about what true power really is.
What Jacob shows us here is something so profound. The true nature of any action isn't determined by its external shape, but by its inner alignment. To the world, to Esau's army, he was bowing down. But in his own mind, in reality, he was standing in perfect alignment with the divine. An act that looks like the greatest weakness was actually the greatest possible show of spiritual strength. What we do is so much less important than where our consciousness is directed while we're doing it.
And that really brings us to the core principle. We often think of power as dominance, as control over someone or something. But that's such a limited worldly definition. The sacred power Jacob shows us isn't about overpowering Esau. It's about achieving perfect synchronization with a higher reality, with the divine will. And in that state of perfect alignment, external threats just lose their power, because they're operating on a lower, less real frequency.
And that's the question we want to leave you with today. Think about the challenges in your own life, your career, your relationships, your own struggles. Where are you fighting head-on, just meeting force with force? And where might the real solution be? Not in pushing harder against the problem, but in performing your own 7 bows. A conscious, methodical act of aligning yourself with a higher truth, a deeper purpose, a divine will. Where might an act that looks like submission to the outside world actually be the key to your ultimate victory? Thank you so much for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We really hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.